Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Transformers. How many rounds are we doing?
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 514. We're live tonight. What is it? Wednesday, the 25th of January. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by a clean-shaven Rick.
Greetings. It's been a while since I've been on TFYLP. With the holidays and everything, and then I got hit by COVID. So I heard your feedback. I'm back on the show, everyone. Relax.
There you go. And we also got Phil.
Hey, what? Hi. What's going on? Right? I'm from.
And Paul. Yeah, Paul.
Hi.
And Rob. So there you go.
Tonight.
No, a point to be here. This is great. Glad I'm here.
There you go. We're all glad to be here.
I just thought I thought you wish you had those concert tickets.
Well, I mean, I would have skipped the show if I had if that had happened.
What concert?
The old FOB. Playing in their hometown, sort of. I mean, they're from the suburbs, not from Chicago.
Miley Cyrus?
No, not them.
T-Swift?
She's notoriously from Chicago, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess since you brought it up, Phil, I might as well tell you. At one point played with them. I was in a band at one point. We played with them, and they opened for us. We paid Fall Out Boy to come do the show, and then they spent the night at my house, and my parents made them pancakes in the morning and gawked over their tattoos and stuff, and so that always connected me with them a little bit, and they recognized me after that because it was their first record. Always liked the band; they're great, a lot of fun. And I've told this story before. I think on the show. They had a Transformer connection because they were into it, and on their initial writers, writers are what the artists give the venue, like, I want the M&Ms separated into stupid, that's the joke. Their take on that is they would put Mitten Sealed Box Generation 1 Transformers on their writer. Like, that's what we want to play tonight. That is an addendum to our contract to play. Of course, it was always struck from the record, but, that was their goofy thing. And then I showed the lead singer my collection. He was instantly not interested. He's like, yeah, it was just kind of a joke. You're clearly way too into this. Very politely, but I could tell, it wasn't. He was
You're like, oh, you're into Transformers too? And he's like, no, not really.
He's like, not like you, bro. And this was a long time ago. This is 2000. It's during college, so I didn't even really. I just had all my old stuff, all my actual G1s. But, fun connected story, connective tissue.
There you go. So tonight, I think this is Phil's topic, right? Phil, what's the topic for tonight?
It was we got the reveal of Cheetor. So the Cheetor Studio Series figure got revealed and dropped in the same day. So almost something that beat the leaks. And so my thought was, all right, what are some other figures or toys that we'd want to see characters get a movie treatment, movie styling? Who are some whether it's it's kind of I think we can kind of look at it like we can go backwards too. I mean, Legacy is doing this sort of G1ification of a bunch of Transformers. So, you know, who would look good G1ified from a movie design? Who do we want to see from G1 or animated in a movie style? And just kind of go back and forth along that. We don't have to do any rounds, just kind of open discussion.
You know, I've mentioned this before on the show, but we did a bunch of control art of post G1 characters using G1 toys. So we would reissue the G1 toy, but modify it, retool it to be a post G1 character. So Marcelo Matere did the art. And the two that stick out in my head is using the G1 Cheryl Breaker body that was retooled into Bulkhead. So one of the fists was the big ball. He had the new head. And the hand was the claw. And then the other one that stuck with me that I'm like, man, that looks really good was G1 Sideswipe retooled to be Lockdown. And no, nobody.
Like movie Lockdown?
No. This was before the movie.
Before, okay.
Yeah. This was before movie. So you know, we were like, all right, well, what if these characters came out during G1? What would they look like? And that's what we were messing around with, and never came to fruition, unfortunately.
That's really a shame because the door's wide open for that stuff still. You know, like the closest we ever got, there was like a period of time around Dark of the Moon where we sort of got some of that stuff, but it was pretty weak from like Japan. You know, there was the Skids and Screech. It was supposed to be Mudflap and Skids, and there was like weird. All they did was redeco the stuff. They didn't do anything notable.
Yeah, we got the Ratchet and Ironhide and the green and the black. Trying to remember what the other ones were, but those were the two that stuck out the most. Like, wow, that's really cool. There was also, and this was even before that. This was years before that, during the Armada time, taking a G1 toy and adding Minicon ports to it. So there was Prowl or Smokescreen, whichever, you know, car brother you want to pick, with Minicon ports added on the doors and on the hood. But yeah, was not meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we got some of that stuff for going G1 and movie style and like the Hunt for Decepticons line. You know, so we got, you know, Sea Spray is one of my favorites from that. You know, we got Mind Wipe from there, you know, who was redecoed a few times on the Strafe. So we've gotten, you know, some of these kinds of like crossover designs, and then you kind of had like the crossovers of, you know, then you had the crossovers where it was some of the newer characters in the movie style, certainly Lockdown being in the movie, and then, you know, we had the Lugnut toy and the Hunt for Decepticon line. So he that movie styling there. So I don't know. I just think it's people are acting, you know, I don't know, passionately is the right word, but it's interesting to see the Beast Wars fandom seeing their beloved characters getting the movie treatment.
There was a funny thing somebody posted online, and I don't know who it was, but it's like they posted a picture in 2007, Optimus Prime. G1 fans freaking out. That's not Optimus Prime. 2022, Cheetor. Everyone. That's Cheetor. Like, you know, it's very different now than it was back in 2007. In 2007, had this movie come out, Cheetor, Air Razor, Primal, none of these guys would look the way they look. You know, Optimus Prime will be like a two-headed thing with like 3 dicks.
And look at what the Optimus looks like in this movie. He's almost like the spitting G1 image.
Exactly.
Of the spitting G1 toy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it certainly seems like the designers have realized that, or to the designs that people know.
Different director, different change of view.
Well, yeah, director and probably production team has a lot to do with it as well.
Well, and we're in a post Endgame world where it's been proven what you're supposed to do with the member berries. You're not supposed to squash them. You're supposed to keep them intact.
Yeah, and even more so now, Marvel has pretty much put every Marvel character in their original comic book accurate costume in Phase 4. So, member berries are good. They taste good. They feel good.
It just makes sense too. It's like if you have this IP and these iconic characters that you're, trying to sell more toys of, like, why would you completely change the design of that?
The only thing that really is bothering me about this whole Rise of the Beast toy line is the same problem we ran into with the first 3 films. How many times can you sell the
What in the world?
City.
Hey guys, sorry, I don't know what happened. The Skype crashed here. So, Rick, if you can rewind to what you were saying before, you said how many times can you, and then it cut out.
Yeah, Lucas, you're frozen for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but those new kids. Hold on. They're saying that they can't. Crap. For some reason, the Skype sound is weird. Hold on. Can you try talking now? See if this works.
They're saying they can't crap. Everyone's constipated.
So that's it. Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, this is fantastic. So now, since everyone came up, so I think it's working now, Rick. But all the stuff that you said, I heard it, but apparently the people did not hear it. So.
Well, it's one of those you had to be there moments.
There you go.
You had to be there.
I'll paraphrase it for you if you want. And
sure.
Rick's saying that we're in a kind of a rut in Transformer brand. They're going back to selling Bumblebee. They're using him as a keystone thing, and it's nothing new.
No, that's not at all what I said.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you should say it again.
Whoa. I can't express all the different levels of stupidity you're firing on right now. No, the point is you can't keep selling us the same shit over. I mean, they have, and we buy it. But what does that do for the identity of the brand? How many times are you going to feed us a yellow Camaro? You know,
it apparently makes them a lot of money. That's what it does to the brand, because that's what they keep doing. So,
I mean, Power Rangers have been selling, red, guys in red spandex for decades. Ninja Turtles have been selling, 4 anthropomorphic turtles with no genitalia for 3 decades. So, it's a formula that works.
And I thought Mirage, who I thought honestly was Jazz when I saw the trailer, I thought he was like the main character or whatever in this one, the one that takes around the human. Are they pushing Bumblebee hard in it too? I only watched the trailer once, and
well, he's Studio Series 100. Really they broke the numbering sequence to put him as a deluxe. He comes out with Airazor, but the numbering, they just like bumped him so he's number 100. I mean, that's not a major thing, but I mean, it's kind of like ceremonious to an extent.
I mean, Rob, I think you're right. From what I've read of the basic story, is that Mirage is supposed to be kind of your main point of contact Transformer. We'll see. This could be another one of those Transformers movies, that suffers from having way too many characters. So even if he's the main one, he still might only be in it, a tenth of the time.
Yeah, I mean, from the trailer, it's hard to tell who is the main character. I mean, obviously, Optimus Prime is going to be the main character. He's been seen on all the sets, right? But who besides Optimus is, the main, point of entry, I guess? Is it going to be Mirage? Is it going to be Bumblebee? I mean, we just had a movie called Bumblebee, so to me, it would be odd that he's not the point of contact. But at the same time, you don't want to retell that 2007 movie where Bumblebee is the car that helps the kid on his journey to discovery and losing his virginity. I mean, let's be real. That's what happened. That's what Bumblebee did. He's a wingman.
Well, I mean, it seems like from the trailers, the Mirage is going to be kind of a wingman, right? So, I guess we'll see. Just throw everything together. So, the one thing about some of the Beast characters, though, that's a little bit interesting is it seems like all of them are very muted. Like, all the designs are, like I know Rhonda kind of brought that up earlier. It's like brown or just, whatever it may be. And I wonder, like, why did they decide to do that instead of making them more colorful?
It's funny you say that, because I showed the images that came out from the zoo to Steve Drucker, who is he worked on Beast Wars, and he's another guy that got retired from Hasbro. So I text him the pictures, and he texts me right back. He's like, they're all the same color. This is Rise of Cobra all over again. Where if you were a G.I. Joe fan, and you go see Rise of Cobra, you go to the toy store, every character is dressed in black. Every single character is dressed in black, right? So how do you tell which guy is which? Oh, when all the toys look the same? How do you sell that? I guess it's a little different because one's a rhino, one's a bird, one's a cheetah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting to your point about that is we've already seen number one, I'd say the cars look a little bit brighter. So, obviously Optimus Prime and Bumblebee are a lot more primary colors. RC and Mirage are going to be a little bit brighter color scheme. So I think there's maybe a differentiation there. But we've also seen for Airazor and Cheetor, they're each getting 2 different toys. And the non-studio series Airazor has a little bit more bright orange in her color scheme. And I forget what the other non-studio series Cheetor, if he's got a little bit more yellow going on with him. But yeah, it is
very
peculiar.
yellow.
Yeah, it is peculiar how they're getting seemingly two toys released at the same time.
Two toys that are basically, let's say like generic deluxes, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, oh, this is the bumper battler, this is the gravity bot, this is the fast action battler.
Yeah, no, fair point. Yeah, and not just two different toys, but two starkly different designs.
Well, one of them is going to be based off concept art, because usually the first set of toys are always based off that concept art.
I had a buddy yesterday who was pissed off that Cheetor doesn't have the cheetah head, doesn't have the swords on his shoulders. Colors aren't quite right. He said, to me, he looks almost more akin to Beast Machines Cheetor than he does Beast Wars Cheetor. The chest and the head especially remind me more of Beast Machines Cheetor. And quite frankly, I think that's the way to go. That's the version everyone remembers and is fond of, is Beast Machines Cheetor. He's too bulky though to be Beast Machines Cheetor. If he's really Beast Machines Cheetor, he needs to look more anemic and emaciated. I don't know. I don't mind it, but I'm not a giant Beast Wars guy, so I'm not sitting here, crying over, they did my guys dirty kind of thing.
I feel like that cheetah mode looks the spitting image of Leo Breaker from Cybertron. That mold they reused a few times to make like Leo Prime and.
Oh yeah.
Just the head, it looks like the lion mane that they did.
I kind of can see that, and the brown colors are similar. So yeah, I see what you're talking about there. Yeah, he made that like big giant arm to go on Cybertron Prime. Yeah.
It's just the silhouette is all I'm.
Yeah.
Like it's not. As someone that doesn't care much.
We want a Supreme Class Cheetor, right? Just for Don.
That toy was. I don't know. I was excited when it came out. I was excited when it got announced, and then I saw it in person. It's like, no, I'm not excited anymore.
So, trying to understand the topic again.
Yeah, we've gone tangential on the topic, but again, the idea being, who are some other Transformers that we'd like to see in movie design? So someone in the chat, and I apologize, it's a little bit back, I'd have to scroll up, said Ultra Magnus. And yeah, I think that'd be a cool one. That'd be a cool character to see get a movie, a Bayformer sort of style, especially the newer, Bumblebee and On sort of style upgrade.
Well, there's two styles now. There's the Bayformers, and then there's the Bumblebee Post.
Yeah,
where they're more G1-esque.
Well, I think the real question, and I think Paul will agree with me here, is which movie franchise do you want it to be a part of? The original 5 movies or the reboot with the Bumblebee movie? So which one? Which gets to your point.
Right, exactly.
I will forfeit that there is a stylistic separation. But as we have recently seen, RC has her wheel legs. Maybe she's going to get. It's an evolution to what she looks like in Revenge of the Fallen, because she's like all wheel legs then.
Is someone just going to rip off her face? Because that's kind of how the Revenge of the Fallen toy looked like.
Oh man, the continuity in these films is just every film completely negates the film that came before it. Absolutely, we need the Allspark kills Megatron. We need the Allspark to bring Megatron back to life.
You are 100% correct, Rick. But I did discover something recently that kind of blew my mind because I don't watch Revenge of the Fallen very often. But there's this part where Sam, is going crazy from Allspark power and like talking in front of the class. And someone's like pointed this out on TikTok or something, but he actually explains this plot of the next film. He talks about Sentinel Prime and the space bridge rods and all this stuff, and it actually tracks. So it's like, I don't know if it was probably an accident, but he literally calls out like the like voyage of Sentinel Prime and the space bridge rod. He doesn't say exactly space bridge rods, but it like all connects. And there is also that really small Easter egg during the Devastator scene where like a piece of paper, when he's sucking up the sand, it has Shockwave, a picture of Shockwave from the next movie. I don't know how they had some.
Well, it's G1 Shockwave.
Is it?
Yeah, it's G1 Shockwave.
Oh. Well, it does talk about Russia, like on the thing. So it's like there's this really small connective tissue that is almost too much of an Easter egg to not kind of like make me go, holy cow, that's amazing. But
they had the same writers for them both, right?
Yeah, Aaron Kruger.
It's like if they had the same writers, that means they were there writing his rambling thing. So like, if you listen to
Easter eggs are not the writers, it's the production guys.
Well, I was going to say like if you'd like listen to interviews with various authors and stuff, a lot with TV and books and whatever, they often put in little things through that they don't know if they're going to use them in the future or if it's going to go anywhere or not. And so I could definitely see them like thinking, oh, this would be a fun plot, have him rambling, and they're like, hey, let's do another movie, and it can be nonsense again. And they're like, okay, hey, I'm going to kind of branch off that idea I kind of dropped in there this time. It wasn't like a hard concrete plan or anything, but also who the hell knows?
But it was the core like thread of the next movie. Like it's almost it's just interesting. I'm not saying it means one thing or the other. It's just like I had never noticed that, and I was kind of like, huh, I like that. That's cool. I wish it was actually connected in a way that was a constant in this franchise, but it's not, because Optimus Prime helped Harriet Tubman free the slaves. So
that's right. Bumblebee fought the Nazis.
I think it's interesting too, Paul, because when you have other movie franchises, specifically like stuff like Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you will have people pour over, and people of our level of nerddom and fandom will know every single Easter egg and how all these things tie together. And here we are, you're like, hey, I discovered this thing from this movie that came out 12, 13 years ago. And none of us necessarily knew it was in there. I apologize if you did know. I don't mean to speak for you, but I think we're all just kind of like, oh, cool. Didn't realize that was there. So yeah, just it shows the differentiation between our fiction that our fandom gets versus the fiction that our fandoms get.
I don't think you say our fiction because like we talk about the animated movie from the 80s. It's a much different story. Well, it's like, I can list you all 483 animation errors to the second. Like it goes hardcore the other way. And, some people are like, oh, yeah, too bad Wind Charger died. And they're like, when did that happen? And you're like, in those 2 frames, idiot. And they're like, oh, Sludge wasn't in the movie. Like, yeah, he was. When? In those 2 frames, idiot.
Frame 2067.
Or Snarl, see? Yeah.
God, fucking casual.
Sorry, bro. They're both in it. That's my point.
Yeah.
Everyone's there eventually. So if going back to the actual topic, now that we're 30 minutes into it, if you had Ultra Magnus,
minutes in, right?
just under the wire. I think the question is like if people are going to pitch out characters and stuff, like what would they look like? Like what would be different, or what would be different about them? How would they be adapted to it? Like if you have Ultra Magnus in, would he be, Armor Prime? would he just be armor for Prime? Would he be somebody that dies and then Prime wears for 5 minutes and then shrugs off and no longer cares that he was wearing his friend's corpse again? Well, where would it go? What would it be?
I think with Ultra Magnus, the obvious answer is he would be a truck. Because, yeah, Phil, he'd be a truck. Because, Optimus is a truck, and Megatron is a truck, and Scourge is a truck.
And Galvatron's a truck.
Galvatron's a truck. Completely forgot about him.
And since he's a truck, they would give him the personality of a trucker, and he'd have a hat.
That's right.
Built into his head.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
I could see them doing.
He would look like a trucker, act like a trucker, have a cowboy hat, but he'd have an Australian accent.
Good day, mate. No lot lizards.
That's right. That's right. That would be the name of his minicon, Lot Lizard.
So,
I
Rick,
think it would be cool
question...
to see with Ultra Magnus is do like a Menasor type of thing for him, where he's a car carrier and he's got cars in his carrier kind of thing, and those become part of his armor.
Sure.
Yeah, just turn him into Menasor. Fans love that.
Right.
Sign off.
Right. Absolutely. You know what? While we're at it, let's just change his name to Bone Crusher.
No. But in the text, we say his name is Devastator.
That's right. That's right. In Cybertronian, it spells Devastator, but when it's translated to English, it says Bone Crusher.
Yeah.
So Rick, my question is, in the movies, like, how did they decide on what characters to use or, like, what names to give those random characters, especially before the Bumblebee movie?
So it's different for each film. For the first movie, Aaron and the team went out to Hollywood and they pitched it to Spielberg. They basically pitched 12, 15 characters. And they did a board for each character. This is Hound. He's got a special power. This is Mirage. This is his special power. This is Jazz. This is what Jazz does. This is his characteristics. And then kind of directing them, say, all right, so the most important ones, Ironhide, Ratchet, Jazz, Bumblebee. Those are the most important guys you should have. And then here's other guys, too, if you want to incorporate them as well. From there, it became the studio kind of leading the charge. Except for, here's Devastator and here's Jetfire. And that was the two big Hasbro pushes. And then for the third one, it was Sentinel Prime was the big push from Hasbro. And Shockwave. We gotta have Shockwave in it. He's got the one eye. He's got an arm cannon. That's what Shockwave is. And then for Age of Extinction, it was back to the drawing board because we were gonna have a whole new cast. So we got to pitch. All right, these are the characters. So we pitched Hound as we created a board that was used the G.I. Joe. I think it was the All Striker, and that was Hound. So we saw him as a military Jeep dune buggy type vehicle. No clue how he ended up being that. No clue how he ended up being Bulkhead. But he basically turned into old Bulkhead. Old man Bulk. Was it? Sure. Who's the Corvette? Crosshairs. We pitched that as Smokescreen. And he was more of a boxer type of a character. Like for some, I don't know why, but Aaron's like, yeah, his hands can transform and get really big, like boxing gloves, and then he's got smokescreen power. I have no idea where that came from. And then the other guy that we pitched was Drift. No clue where the triple changer thing came from. Drift was always like straight out of IDW. No clue where the samurai thing came. We always pitched Ninja, and then we pitched Lockdown, and Lockdown was Mad Max. We just Mad Max art out the ass, and he ended up being Michael Bay's personal car. So that's how that happened.
I mean, Lockdown was one of the first designs where I'm like, they finally did it right. Like, finally got like a Transformer in live action.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was.
I thought that was absolutely terrible.
No?
Because the Lockdown we had was very much the animated Lockdown, where he was piecing himself together with other, like, the original script. He kills Ratchet and takes Ratchet's saw blade and puts it on his arm, and then that's what Optimus uses at the end of the movie to kill him. Is Ratchet's saw blade. But it was very much like Mad Max, and he was the leader of the Lords of Deception. And they lived out in the woods, not in the woods, out in the desert, in a cave, and they were all struggling to survive, and it was all very, like, they were dirty and beat up, and it was the last surviving Decepticons from Chicago.
I mean, it seems like, from what we've seen of a couple of the Terrorcon designs, Scourge and Battletrap, like, they've kind of gone that route a little bit with those two. Nightbird is cleaner and sleeker, but Battletrap and Scourge certainly, have a lot of Mad Max similarities there.
Well, they're Terrorcons, Phil.
Terrorcons, I'm sorry.
Even though Battletrap has a Decepticon logo on the toy.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, at this point, I don't get excited for the films because the story is so important to me. But I get excited for the way the toys look and the way the characters look. Like I'm really excited to see the Beast Wars guys.
Well, I mean, I'm curious too to see, like, they haven't shown off any of the. Trying to think, like what Decepticons have they shown so far?
Scourge, Battletrap, and Nightbird.
Okay.
Those are Terrorcons.
What bad guys have they shown off?
Oh, I don't think Decepticons are supposed to be in the film. I think it's the Maximals. The Maximals, the Terrorcons, and the Autobots.
Okay.
And I've heard that there's still supposed to be Predacons. I don't know.
And Predacons and Unicron.
Are there Predacons? Because they haven't shown any of those off, right?
I've heard mixed on that.
The secret, maybe.
Literally, they don't need another. They already have 3 factions, 300 characters, and 2 humans. I mean, like.
But what if they had 4 factions?
Right.
Why not both?
I mean, talking about characters people would expect to see, I do think it's odd that we have a Rise of the Beast movie that isn't going to show Predacons. Like, right? Who needs those?
Just looking at, like, the designs and the overall thing about the story, like, I think a better title would have just been Beast Machines. Transformers Beast Machines. Reappropriate that title, just like, hey, we're calling this Avengers movie Age of Ultron. Has nothing to do with the Age of Ultron comic book. It's just a cool name.
It was Weekend of Ultron.
Right, Weekend at Ultron's. Right. That was the original one.
I like that, Rick. That's a good idea. Because they didn't call it Beast Wars, like.
Right. It's not Beast Wars because there's no Predacons in it. Just call it, Beast Machines. And because anything with Rise of sucks. Rise of Cobra sucks. The only exception I can think of is the Rise of Gru. That's the only exception. Rise of Skywalker sucks. Right?
They should have gone with our name, Beasttown, USA. I mean, that's really, that's going to be the theme song I've heard through the grapevine.
They should have called it Transformers Franchise Installment 2023.
Right.
Written by ChatGPT. Clearly, the trailer text was.
Shit! I want to. While we talk, I'm gonna go see what ChatGPT, if it isn't overloaded, will see what it says. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I was literally thinking about ChatGPT a second ago when you were talking about the plot from the earlier Bayverse movies. I'm like, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT could have written a better plot than what we got.
Is that an AI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Um,
That Family Guy AI is amazing.
I don't know that one.
So yeah,
So-
that's the world I live in now. You know, not excited for the story, just excited to see the designs. Hopefully, there's a cool opening sequence that whole Bumblebee movie, that opening sequence. Just give me that. Just give me that. Make it 45 minutes long. There you go. Perfect. No plot, no humans. It's just a bunch of Transformers fighting, blowing up shit on Cybertron. That's it. That's all I need in my life.
I think one of the cool things when you look back at the Bumblebee movie, and especially in terms of toys, we got a good amount of toys from that, Cybertronian sequence, and toys that I've personally been excited about. And what the reason I bring this up and how it ties into our topic is that basically what those sequences gave us were the movie toys that weren't really movie toys, if you catch my drift. So we got the Hunt for Decepticons wave of toys in between movies. So here were characters that weren't in the movies, but given that Bayverse design. Again, Mind Wipe, the Sea Spray, name a bunch of other ones there. And so we didn't get that. We got that a couple of figures for that for Age of Extinction, basically just rounding out the Dinobots. And then I don't think we got that at all for, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't think we got any new characters in Bayverse designs right in the toy line for the Last Night. Did we get any non-movie characters that came out in the Last Night that were kind of new molds or new designs? No. So, but the first several movies, we got a pretty good chunk of those. We got a pretty good chunk of characters, like is the Reveal the Shield or Age of Extinction Brawn that's really freaking cool. That came out that had the cool head design, and all of a sudden he's got pistols and he's thin and skinny. But
That was
what
Dark
we got,
of the Moon, bro.
That was Dark of the Moon. Okay. So yeah, we got that Cybertronian scene gave us essentially those waves of figures from the Bumblebee movie.
Yeah,
and
again,
I was gonna say, I think part of it too is that the movie figures weren't selling the same way that they were, previously. So
yeah.
I'm sure that's probably part of it.
Well, toys in general, but yeah. Again, how many times can you sell the same yellow Camaro to a kid or to a collector, right?
At least 286 by my count, and counting.
347 is my limit.
Unfortunately,
I can't remember. Are you a Bumblebee character collector as well?
Maybe.
Unfortunately, I troop build Bumblebee, so it's been a nightmare.
Oof.
For what it's worth, asked ChatGPT for a Transformers movie script, and it made way too much sense. I said, set it in Beast Wars, and it had Maximals and the Predacons are fighting, and then a new faction called the Vehicons, led by the Fallen, arises. But he has a personal vendetta with Optimus Prime. and and they're fighting over the Cybertron Matrix, which is the key to the to peace. So I said, give me that story again, but add more random nonsense. And I'll just read the last paragraph. I'll save everything else. It says, in the end, the Maximals and Predacons were able to defeat the Viacons and the Fallen, the giant robot chicken, the giant robot unicorn, and all the giant space pickles. And peace was restored to Cybertron once again. But now they have to deal with giant robot giraffes that appeared out of nowhere. Now we're getting there.
Yeah.
And for what's worth, all those things are where they come from is in the rest of the script. Just jumping to the end here. They had to get the Energon, which was stuck in a giant watermelon. So.
Right. Yes. And
Michael
it was
Bay's
seedless
reading
watermelon.
Chat GTP Transformers scripts. He's like, damn it, I'm out of a job.
Please, Rob, I think make sure you save that text and we can just make a YouTube short that is just like that getting read by a Mac or something. Holy shit, that would be great. Supplemental content here.
I'll be behind
So
your
we
paywall.
toyed around with Beast Wars way back for part 4. And we did concept art, and a lot of that concept art has leaked online. So the original story for part 4 was the Nest guys, Tyrese, and other, generic human. They travel with Bumblebee, Optimus, and New Crew back in time to Earth. And they come across the Allspark before Hoover Dam's built. And it's this big giant thing sticking out of the ground. And the Dinobots are there, and they were the guardians of the Allspark. So wherever the Allspark went, the Dinobots could trace it, and they could follow it. And then what they ended up doing is they scanned the area around the Allspark, and they found all these fossilized scans. And so that's how they became dinosaurs. And then Optimus was going to turn into a gorilla, and Megatron was going to turn into a dragon. And that was the very first story for part 4. And then and then the Cheetor and the Optimus Primal art leaked out.
But what if instead, at the end of a movie, Optimus Prime finds the Dinobots and tells them he's going to kill them all if they don't join him? What about that instead?
Yeah.
Dope.
Join me or die. Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Classic Optimus.
We need to make sure the Dinobots are in China.
Right. The only thing that would have made that better if he said, "Give me your face."
Faces of darkness.
Right, and he takes the faces, and that's how the Quintessons are born.
There we go. Bringing it home, boys.
That's right. Full circle.
So my question is, if we're thinking about movie designs that we're wanting, is it the pre-Bayverse stuff, or is it the, kind of new designs where it's G1ified but, updated kind of thing? Because I feel like that's kind of the monkey's paw type of deal where it's like, all right, give me your favorite character, and then like, oh gosh, what did they do to whatever
my
character
boy,
that I wanted?
my beautiful boy. They
Right,
massacred my
right.
beautiful boy.
Well, I mean, you can't even say Bumblebee style because, I mean, it's basically G1. I mean, look at Cliffjumper in that movie. Look at Soundwave, Shockwave. It's basically G1, right? I think you have to go back to Bay. You go back to the Bayverse. Springer. There was a lot of art for Springer for part 2, and ultimately it ended up being like, we can't have this. What is it? The Hilo, the
Osprey.
the Osprey. Yeah, that turned into a car. Like eventually, it's like, yeah, we can't have that turn into a car.
Why
There's
not?
just no way. Because the car would be, bigger than Optimus Prime. So
I don't see why that matters in the slightest, especially in the context of these movies.
right, exactly. So that's why
logic all of a
Springer
sudden matters for that? Shut up.
Yeah, that's why Springer got cut.
They made a big deal about mass shifting in the first movie and like traveling across space, in a ship versus like being an asteroid. I just remember being on the Don Murphy forums back then, and like they just spent so much time arguing about that, and then at some point in the film, it was like, we don't give a shit.
What if they just make them turn into cubes that shift into the other alternate mode?
Right. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, Drift turned into a car and a helicopter, so there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As did the triple changers.
Right.
None of us saw it coming at Hasbro. We're like, what is this? What's happening? Why does he do that? I remember Takara just saying, please don't make him sound like a stereotypical Japanese character. That was their one request. That was the one request from Takara.
How'd that go?
And we said, I remember exactly where I was when I heard the answer. He absolutely will talk like a typical Japanese character because it's Michael Bay. And sure enough, Ken Watanabe.
It would have been nice if like all of his expressions had like drawn on the over exaggerated anime facial expressions for everything
big
he
eyes
did.
And big drop of sweat, and that's right.
The,
Right. He's got a little collection of cute little girls on his dashboard.
he could have been bringing Kiss players to the movie franchise. That's what we need.
Yep.
He gets bumped on the head and gets the giant like anime cartoon like swelling thing going on there.
Right. He pulls out a giant mallet from behind his back at one point.
It's like it's like Peter Porker from Spider-Ham from Into the Spider-Verse, but like taken seriously.
Right. Right. Yes. I mean, for all the great things that these movies have done, they're just not great movies. But they have done a lot of great things for the brand.
It boosted it back into like the mainstream big time.
Yeah.
I know every one of us, all of a sudden you went to work. Well, if you were working at Hasbro, I guess it's not really that different, but everyone at work is like, hey, did you see Transformers? Choo 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 choo. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Way to go. And they're like, isn't that so cool? It made a car. I'm like, yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, the entire world got Transformers fever for a few months.
And that first movie was, exciting to see. And I think it's still, probably the best, that and Bumblebee are probably the best two movies. So all the ones I worked on are shit.
I don't know. I see a lot of people, like general Transformer fans, like really like Dark of the Moon. There's a lot like that. Often is like that's the best one.
The one that doesn't even have a real title.
That's right.
Dark of the Moon.
What does it even mean?
Written
We're
by
not even on the
no
moon
one.
for that long. It should have just been called Transport to Oblivion.
That would have been awesome. That's such a great title.
Transport to Oblivion.
Satellite.
Or something, movie edit would be like Revenge of Cybertron. Or Rise of Cybertron. That would have been it. Rise of Cybertron.
It kind of would have fit too.
Yeah. Yeah, Rise of Cybertron.
So, I will say one set of characters I do think would be neat is to see headmasters in the movie, like movified. And how
Wasn't
would they do
Cogman the toy a headmaster?
that? I guess, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
that's-
toy
Like, I don't know
was.
that it was in the movie or
Toy
not.
Yeah, not in the film, but in the toy. In the film, he didn't transform.
They called him a head. He said, "I'm the headmaster." Like,
Oh, I
but
get
it was
because he's like a
kinda
butler, main
Yeah,
butler.
yeah. The head, yeah.
Because who was
Like,
the
I'm the
jet-
headmaster of the school,
Well, if you remember, what Nitro Zeus was a headmaster.
Yeah.
I think there was a pre-viz thought where like he was supposed to behead Nitro Zeus and like take him over, kind of like, and because I know there's some of the fan sites got to go to like early early stuff, and that's some of the stuff I heard from some of the people that were there. But then the dragon was originally supposed to be Megatron too, but they're like, yeah, change all that. So things change. But then like Rick has said, he's told us kind of some of the original ideas, like Lockdown. That thing you were saying about Lockdown, that kind of makes sense. They sort of like took that and made that ship, and there's all those other like weird dudes that are hanging around on that ship. Maybe like that's what that concept morphed into.
He's still a bounty hunter, right? In the movie?
Yeah. He is. No clue where the ship came from. No clue where Day Trader came from. Still waiting on a toy for him. I even got to speak to Lance Henriksen, and he was down. He's like, "Oh, I absolutely want to do it. I want to do the film." I think he would have been a great choice. I think they should have had him. So we put the bug in Bay's ear. We're like, Lance Henriksen. I doubt the dude ever got a call.
They biffed that real hard. But I mean, it was a totally different Lockdown. It's like it wasn't animated Lockdown, other than the knife on his hand.
I think we can say that about most characters.
Famous?
What was that?
Was Lockdown voiced by anyone famous?
Lance Henriksen.
No. In the movie.
In the film, the guy who does Bumblebee. He did Bumblebee, Jetfire. Okay. He's in all the movies.
Is that a joke? He did Bumblebee? Does Bumblebee ever talk in any of these? Other than like the very end or something?
Yeah, but he's also the guy that's on set doing all the different voices so the actors can play off of.
He's like a trained voice actor guy. It's like David Slavoslavi or something.
No,
totally
it's not David Slobodov.
It's not him? Oh.
No. It's some other guy who I don't know has any other credits. He's just a Michael Bay boy.
That is one of those things. If you become one of Michael Bay's boys, you can be a real crappy actor and still get a lot of parts.
Well, I did think he did justice to that version of Lockdown in that film. Like, I think it's not the one we would have liked, but I think he did a good job.
No, he didn't do a poor job. It was just, I don't know. I don't mean to necessarily be negative, but relatively generic.
Yeah, Lockdown doesn't really, stick out very much.
Except for when he has the giant gun sticking out of his head.
The one thing that I remember the most about Part 4 was I'm sitting in the theater and the Autobots, they're raiding Lockdown ship, and I'm thinking, man, this was an alright movie. Okay, this is great. And I thought, oh shit, the Dinobots haven't shown up yet. We got another hour of this. Sure enough, there's another hour of the movie. The movie should have ended there, where they raid the ship, and that should have been the big climactic battle.
I feel like for you to even have that thought at that point in the movie, you must have been really drunk, like insanely drunk.
No, it wasn't a Tuesday or anything. It was just, I'm just like, all right, this movie did what it had to do, okay. And now it's ending, and I'm like, oh shit, the Dinobots. Oh, they haven't even introduced them yet. Oh.
They were so tacked on for something that iconic. Honestly, it's kind of how I felt about Devastator. Not that Devastator was tacked on to Part 2, but I thought the combination himself, and all that was just really, hey, what if he just fights a pyramid for like 10 minutes or something cool? Like it was. Yeah. Like I've always felt he should have been the plot of that movie is him going there and wrecking shit and the Autobots trying to figure out how to like defeat him or whatnot. But no, he's just a side story. He's the B plot.
He's like the C plot.
Yeah. And then
the parents
Dinobots were the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dinobots were the same, just flushed.
They were just an absolute afterthought, and then even more so in Part 5.
Remember the baby Dinobots?
Where do they come from?
When a mommy Dinobot and a daddy Dinobot really love each other.
Or when they get drunk really, rough at a bar one night.
God, there's so many like questionable things, like when Megatron's feeding little babies in Dark of the Moon. Like, where do those things come from? You know, like.
And I'm here now.
Right, like, did they really explain the Fallen that well? Like,
and that was during the writer's strike is their excuse, but that doesn't work for the next like 800 movies that came after. So.
And like, here's my thing: like, it's called Transformers. You should have the Fallen transform, right? He should turn into something.
He turned into a robot without a face.
Right, just like Hasbro's just like, I don't know what to do. What do we make him? I don't know. Let's just have him sit down.
If I wanted to defend that decision, which I really don't, but and even going back to G1 at the beginning, there's like a lot of toys that do that. That's been a staple for a while. It's like, what if you use your imagination and it just kind of like the legs fold up and you lay it down?
But it still looks like a plane or a car. Like this one just looks like he fell down. Like, let's just have him fall down. And
have you seen Grandis?
He's a space plane.
Have you seen Grandis? Literally.
Or Metroplex, really.
Yeah, but there's a difference between like an 80s toy that like, all right, we're going to kind of fake it because whatever, we don't have the engineering, and a toy that came out 25 years later where, you know, even the designs of what, you know, he's supposed to look like just look like shit. It's like they made a good toy of a piece of shit. Because, I mean, what do you do? Like, you just have a piece of shit. So how do you not make a piece of shit look like a piece of shit?
We were all pissed off when we were watching the movie. It was like, the 7? Is it that hard to just say 13? Like, why isn't it 13? It should be 13.
Don't have the CGI budget. 7.
Because
there were 7 Horcruxes.
That's...
And that was a popular movie.
I don't think they were even at that point yet in the Harry Potter movies, were they?
I think they were at the book. The last book had come out.
Yeah, man.
What the general vibe I'm getting is that like the topic we've put forth almost nothing towards it, which gets to what my original like sarcastic response to the topic was, is that we're saying, hey, what characters would you like to add to the movie franchise in the movie style? And in math, if you're adding something, you know, you're combining two numbers. You can combine a negative number in there, and it's still technically adding it. So by that, what characters would I want to add in a negative fashion? And the answer is all of them. But, you know, if I had to start with one at a time, I probably would start with Optimus Prime. Because that's the biggest offense, is how much stuff he does throughout the movies that is just like, that's not Optimus Prime. He's supposed to be pretty much like, he's not perfect, but he is still a goody two shoes, right? You know, He's kind of got that Superman problem a bit. So, you know, like he's not going to say, give me your face, join me or die. He's not going to execute Megatron. Like, he's not going to do that shit or any other dumb crap that he does.
So we started with the Bone Crusher fight. That's where it started.
Because it looks cool.
Right. So we're at the premiere for Dark of the Moon, and all the Hasbro guys were sitting in the front because we got all the really shitty seats. So we're sitting like in the front to the side at the premiere. And then Optimus is the line, "We must kill them all." And you hear a collective groan go, "Oh," from like the whole side of that theater. Just everyone's like, "Oh." And then everyone gets up, and we're all like, man, there should have been like a line in there, like, "You're too dangerous to be left alive, Sentinel," instead of just, you know, execution style, blasting his head off.
Well, and that was a secret too, wasn't it? Because like the comic doesn't end that way. He pardons him or some shit, and then like it was a late change or something that he had.
No, comics and novelizations are always changed.
Oh, on purpose, just
so.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, they're always changed.
Well,
if you want to read something crazy, read the novelization to Back to the Future 3.
All right.
Yeah.
I always thought it was or I don't know which movie it was about, but there's an interview with Peter Cullen. Like, I mean, he's at a convention doing Q&A or whatever, and he talks about, he's like, there was one line they made me do, and he's like, I really didn't want to do it because it's so out of character. And I don't remember if it was after movie, I believe it was like after movie 2 or 3, maybe it was 4. It wasn't after 1, I don't think. Oh, I mean, technically after 1, but you get what I mean. I think it was in reference to something in either 2 or 3, maybe 4. I don't know what that line was, but he was just very sad. He's like, I really didn't want to say it, but he's getting paid, so he says what they, tell him to say, because it's a good paycheck. I get it. I've sold out for less. So
I think that's a big difference between that era and today, where you have so much concern over protecting the IP. You look at guys like Kevin Feige and what they've done with Marvel and what they've done with something that's close to the original intellectual property, and it's been well received. Now, obviously, you had examples like that with Spider-Man, with the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies that stayed pretty darn close to the IP, and people loved it. But I don't know. You still hadn't had that moment yet where people just realize, wait, this stuff that's been popular for decades is popular for a reason. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel?
Do you remember, Phil? You might be too young for this. Do you remember when Sam Raimi Spider-Man came out and Peter Parker shot the web from his wrist?
Yes.
Instead, like that was a huge uproar amongst a certain community of people. That was a huge uproar. And you know what? Then they saw the movie and they're like, okay, all right, for that movie, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
We're fine. But they made a point of him doing it in The Amazing Spider-Man. Him building the web shooters.
Yeah, but I think that was like, I know where they were coming from with that when they did that. And I remember them explaining that, which was this idea that, it was this idea that how would a teenager invent these web shooters and this web fluid that's just like this? He would be a multi-millionaire several times over if he invented that substance, and whatnot. So it was them trying to rationalize and give him a story of saying, all right, this is where his webs are going to come organically, so we don't have to say like this teenager invented this thing that would be like mind-blowing in terms of the...
I absolutely bust a blood vessel when people try to like argue realism and logistics into a goddamn comic book movie. I mean, it works that way because it works that way. Like if there can be a radioactive spider that gives you superpowers, for one, that would happen a lot more then. These things don't happen in one-offs, but it's fantasy and it's fun that way. So like, sure, he can also be really smart and go, what is it? Figure out how to like modify some crazy string cans and go to town. I don't care. That being said, I always thought it was great that they naturally came out of his wrist. I always really liked that change. But...
And then 25 years later, the joke paid off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just that was, Rob, that was how movie studios kind of looked at things back in that time frame, which was, we can't have this thing exist because that's the way it just exists. There had to be some sort of grounding in realism. Remember, the X-Men costumes all looked the way they did with that leather, like almost flight suit looking thing, because of the fact that they're like, oh, we can't have Hugh Jackman running around in yellow spandex. That would look ridiculous.
They even make a joke about that.
Yeah.
X1 or X2, I can't remember which.
And 25 years later, here we are, Deadpool 3, and Hugh Jackman's going to be running around in yellow spandex.
Yeah.
Really? They showed the mask.
Nice. I will say, like, Daredevil's been making an appearance in some of the latest Marvel shows, and he has this classic costume on, and I think it looks terrible. I think it looks so dumb. I much prefer what he had in the Netflix series. His variations there, but...
Well, Phase 4 is all about putting the guys in their classic costumes. So...
that costume was Rob. That costume was fairly short-lived in the comics. That was not a well-received costume, even in the comic books.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care. But it was just like, oh, that's ugly.
Daredevil has for like 60 years been all red with the D's on his chest. That red and brown costume, or I'm sorry, yellow and brown costume, or yellow and red, whatever you want to say, was short lived.
Oh, I know that one. I've seen that at Walgreens for many years.
Yeah, it's coming back too.
Now with a pink hat.
Yeah. No,
so we've really strayed off the topic. Can we get it back to Transformers? I know I didn't help that for what it's worth. But it just dawned on me.
No, I mean I'm going back to, I think it was Lucas that you said, like, you know, Monkey's Paw, like which characters do you want to see with the Baver styling? And you know, I think there were characters that, you know, Jazz and Optimus Prime were two characters that sort of looked like updated versions of what we kind of knew them to be. And then you have Ironhide and Starscream especially that looked nothing like what we knew.
At least Starscream was a plane.
Yeah. Because Megatron's just
he lays down.
Well, I mean,
just kind of shove it all together.
The other thing that we haven't really seen in the movie too, really, is like Titan size figures as well, like a Metroplex or something like that, right? Like, I mean, what if you did have like just a complete massive, you know, or even an actual Unicron? I mean, they teased it, but
that was is Triptychon rising up out of the sea.
Right.
So
like Godzilla kind of deals, you know.
What they would do is it would find out, like, oh, it turns out Chicago has been this Transformer city since the beginning of time. It turns out, you know, that once again, why I didn't wake up during all the other things, we're not going to talk about it, because he's awake now because of the dire threat of MacGuffin 2.0 or something. That's what it would be. And all the people in Chicago would die when it went to transform.
Right.
There would be a lot of blood dripping off.
They fall out of the windows, or they get crushed in the gears. And yeah.
There's got to be a real previs Unicron design, since he was part of last night.
The only thing that we did for Unicron was the planet with the horns. It was just recycled art. We never did a robot mode. I don't think you'd ever have a robot mode for Unicron in the movies. Not in the Bayverse.
I mean, I think ultimately for me, like, I would rather they just make all new characters for everything, because for the most part up until now, they have been 99%. They might as well it's just literally reusing a name.
You're saying that Skids wasn't the G1 Skids from the 3 episodes that he showed up in?
I don't remember him being a racist stereotype for both of those frames, no.
Or being green.
Yeah. I can never remember which one's the green one.
You know, you mentioned movie Starscream and how awful it looks. Part of the reason he's the Dorito is because of that mass shifting, like rule they kind of put in place. They thought it was so important to the fandom or to the logic of Transformers. So he had the chicken legs because he was a jet and he was so big. If you see that photo of all the vehicles, you know, like laid out, and the F-22 is behind him, he's like 3 times as big as Optimus Prime. So the way to get him to not be a towering giant mofo was to give him the chicken legs and like spread him out from a mass perspective, and that was their solution. So that's why he sucks so bad, is because of, you know, that's why he should have just been named like Jet Strike or something, you know.
So a few of us got invited to go see, we saw like a half hour of the first movie a few months before it came out, and this was a press event in New York, and Bay was there, and they showed the scene where Optimus is talking to Sam outside of his bedroom window, and Optimus's face looked completely different than it does in the film. So Optimus had 4 lips. He had lips that closed like this, and this.
Your video's been gone the entire show, so we don't know what shapes you're making.
Okay.
Was it like this? Like a diamond?
Not quite like a diamond. He had lips on top and the bottom, but on the left and right side of his face. So, yes, yeah. So he had two sets of lips that were moving at the same time.
That way he can kiss you perpendicularly as well.
It just looked awful. It looked absolutely terrible. So I'm very glad that they fixed it for the final thing. The way it got fixed was one of the Japanese animators. He saw that, and he stood up in front of Bay and everybody there at the meeting, and he said, "This is a great dishonor to Optimus Prime." This is a true story. He said, "This is a great dishonor to Optimus Prime. I will animate this." And he animated Optimus Prime from that point on, the face.
I think Michael Bay corroborates that story in the extra features of the first movie.
Well, Bay's the one who told me that story, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So maybe it's true,
like,
maybe
well,
it's not.
If you feel that strongly about it, okay, you can animate it.
Surprised he wasn't just fired on the spot. How dare you stand in my presence? I am Michael Bay.
Yeah, I will say this. Michael Bay, the couple times I met him, he was always super cool to me and just very nice.
He was a D-bag when he showed up to the BotCon Transformers Hall of Fame thing. Like, he was on stage for like 2 minutes, yeah, and he just came off as a real D-bag.
Yeah, I didn't like that he said the thing was made out of plastic.
Yeah, I just remember being real dismissive. For what it's worth, I'm dismissive of that event as well, but I'm also not the one on stage. You know, I would be polite. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think he came off bad. I was there too, and yeah, it was like I think he kind of put his foot in his mouth. I don't think he meant to be an asshole, but you know, he didn't.
When
care
that's your
about
one interaction with the guy in real life, that's it. First impressions are hard to shake.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he's cool IRL.
Well, he has that reputation of being a giant asshole like me. Okay. But then when you meet him, he's not so much of an asshole, kind of like me. But I will say he was incredibly nice to me every time I've spoken to him. So,
well, and you met him in a professional sense too, so I think you probably had an air of respect. So.
The first time I met him, I didn't work for Hasbro. The first time I met him, I was just consulting. So I wasn't officially part of the Hasbro crew. I was just consulting.
You were still a professional, speaking to a professional.
And they got me into backstage to meet him. And he's like, hey, we were just talking for about 10 minutes, and yeah, I had a poster I bought for you to sign, and I couldn't get it past security. He's like, really? Yeah, they wouldn't let me bring my poster in. Like, that's ridiculous. So he goes over, there's this 6-foot-tall giant poster, takes it off the wall, signs it, rolls it up. He's like, this is for you. You take that.
Oh, that is nice.
Coming back to what you guys were saying about don't name Starscream if you're going to make him look so different. I do think one of the characters I have the most affinity for from the first several movies is Blackout. And because I don't have any preconceived notions of what his design should look like.
Barricade.
Barricade, not as much, but Blackout I think is really cool. Blackout was one of the few toys I got from the original movie because I did enjoy that design so much. And
I have a lot less animosity towards those characters because, there was no preconceived notion of you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not really that guy. I'm okay with change. You can mix stuff up. That's fine. But when it just seemed nonsensical or antithetical to what it should have been unless we were doing a Shattered Glass movie, right?
But even some of the characters that didn't have much backstory to them, like Bone Crusher, I think the Bone Crusher design is lame. But yeah, Blackout especially, like him and Grimlock and Shockwave, I think are my favorites of the Bayverse designs.
So my favorite character.
Break this back.
My favorite character. Hey, my favorite character in the films.
Wheelie.
It's Wheelie. It's just It's Wheelie. It's Wheelie. It has nothing to do with the G1 Wheelie whatsoever. It's just a reappropriation of the name. It's just.
I mean, I don't know. Didn't Willie like hump someone's leg or something?
He did.
I mean, that is classic G1 Willie. I mean,
right. Yeah.
Come on.
Yes. But yeah, I just always thought Wheelie was funny as hell.
Wasn't Wheelie voiced by Justin Roiland?
No.
Oh. I assumed with the assault that was that's.
Let's skip that combo, please.
No, come on.
No. All right. So
Wow,
let me throw this out. Let me throw this out. Yeah. Could you imagine Cosmos in the Bayverse? What the hell that would have been? He would have turned into like a boat or something.
No, he would have been a Russian cosmonaut. So he would have been like the dude he would have been voiced by the dude from Armageddon.
That's right.
Yes.
That's absolutely true. You nailed it. He'd be Russian.
He'd have turned into
That's right.
Sputnik.
He'd be Sputnik. Be Sputnik, and he would have been in the museum too.
I actually wouldn't mind that, to be honest with you.
That's right. Yeah. In the Russian cut of Revenge of the Fallen, they don't go to the Smithsonian. They go to the Kremlin, and Cosmos is there instead of Jetfire.
Oh, they filmed that whole scene. That's
cool. Yeah.
And Vladimir Putin single-handedly destroys Megatron in that cut.
Right.
with his shirt off.
Shirtless.
Yes. While riding a horse.
And at the end, he pulls off Megatron's mask, and it was America.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And Wheelie is Kim Jong-un. Is that it?
It's kind of crazy. They never went to Japan in the Transformers films, did they?
Not a big enough market.
Well, after they did Drift, they're like, you get the fuck away from us.
It's funny that you say that. They never went to Japan. Went to China, which is a huge market for Transformers.
They went to Cambodia too, didn't they? Like reshoot some stuff and do like Angkor Wat in Revenge of the Fallen or something, or maybe Dark of the Moon, doing the space bridge stuff. It's just like a scene. It's just like they just did the location and put some CG on it.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, we never got to see Transformers in Tokyo. Then again, none of it would have been filmed in Tokyo. It would have all been CGI. It would have been filmed in Vancouver.
It'd have been reused footage from prior Bay movies.
That's right. It's actually reused footage from Transformers 1, just flipped. So that the cars are going the different direction.
They put a sepia filter on it.
Right.
Here in Japan, they live in black and white. I don't know.
It's probably best that Transformers didn't go to Japan, because that I can see how that would have ended up poorly.
There would have been a panty vending machine that transforms into a robot.
Right.
Probably the hero.
Thong Master. They don't have thongs in Japan.
I'll take your word for it.
So, why don't we call it a night, gentlemen?
All right.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal note to end up on.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Well, guys, thank you for joining me tonight, and thanks to everyone in the chat. Do want to mention book club this week is going to be Lost Lights 21 and 22. So looks like they're actually getting pretty close to the end of the Lost Light there. So that's 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the TF Talk Discord on Sunday night.
So book club will be coming to an end soon.
No.
Then they'll move
still
into
more
the-
comics. They still have like phase 3 of those, like all those like trash comics. So
I can't wait till Anna tricks other people into reading that series, and then they finally realize how bad it is. Other than like maybe Catherine likes it.
Yeah, Catherine likes it too.
Yeah,
I feel
but
like
that's
they went through some pretty rough comics already. you know, some of the like the ROM stuff and whatever that.
But nobody was championing that and saying how good they actually were.
I like that stuff.
You're a liar.
Okay, sure.
You're not an unbiased opinion. Though.
Yeah, you're a Unit E lover.
Oh, Unity.
So
It was the Hasbro Avengers that never were.
Oh, Zaldron says they're gonna do the manga next, so there you go.
Do the Kiss players? I'll show up for that.
I
They
thought
did the
already
audio
did
of the
that.
Kiss
I'm
players.
pretty sure
Are they
did
doing
the
these?
No
Kiss.
way. Well, I lied. I'm not showing them.
Are they doing this manga or are they doing something else? Like you say the manga, there's a lot of it. You got to be specific.
Yeah, I don't know.
I believe Zaldron was being facetious.
Anyway.
Say that seems totally in line. I can't tell that that's a joke.
Right. So anyway, well, thank you guys. Appreciate you joining us, and we will see everyone next week.
Hi, everybody.